Welcome back to Going Bush. And Nick, for this next segment, we're not exactly in the bush.
No,
We've come here to visit that. It's a paper factory.
Indeed it is, and a lot of products that begin their life in the bush ultimately end up here. This is the story of how you get your nice white piece of paper. And what an epic story it is. The Australian paper mill at Maryvale, east of Melbourne, is one of this country's biggest paper manufacturers, producing a wide range of products from office paper to paper bags and cardboard boxes for local and export markets, all produced to certified standards of sustainability.
It's such a large site, there's 1,000 people here at Maryvale, and the site works 24 hours a day.
Close to 2/3 of the wood used here is plantation-based from crops close to the mill. The remainder is certified low-grade wood from regrowth state forests and waste from local sawmills. The site contains 3 pulp mills and 5 paper machines, all hard at work 24/7.
That goes on to making office papers or communication papers, things like reflex photocopy paper. And then the other papers that we produce is packaging papers, and things like cardboard boxes to bags, this type of thing.
This is paper making on a mass scale, Nick. This is the number 5 paper machine. And like all the paper machines, the paper begins its life here as water and gets spat out down there as paper.
99.5% water at this end, 4% water at the other. This is the number 5 machine. It makes a staggering 6 million sheets of A4 copy paper per hour. 6 million! This paper is destined for Australia, New Zealand and more than 60 export markets around the world. At Paper Machine 4, the focus is on turning waste into something usable. 8% of all fibre on site comes from waste paper, which would otherwise be sent to landfill, giving rise to a range of recycled paper products.
It comes down to what people want. So you can buy something like a Reflex Ultra White, or you can then buy your photocopy papers, which have got 80%, 100% recycled paper.
And while quality paper making is still the main game here at Maryvale, keeping the mill on a sustainable path has been a major focus of investment. In 2008, Australian Paper completed a $600 million upgrade of the site aimed at further reducing emissions and water use, and also cutting back the amount of external electricity needed to run it. This investment also helps keep Australian manufacturing competitive against imports from Indonesia, China and Thailand. As you'd imagine, to run a facility like this, you need an enormous amount of power. But one of the things that this facility has going for it is it actually generates a lot of its own. It's one of Victoria's biggest generators of renewable energy.
One of the byproducts of the pulping process is a product known as black liquor.
Yes, drink.
You don't drink it, you fire it into a great big boiler like that and it produces power and steam. In fact, to run this whole facility, only 7% of its electrical needs are taken from the electricity grid.
It's been a long-term thing, but we always make improvements in efficiency as we go along. It's good to have that sort of closed cycle in an industrial process where you can get a lot of your energy requirements directly from the material it's using.
It's a similar story with the other significant requirement of paper making, and that's water. So the paper making process, Andrew, is very intensive in its use of water.
It uses heaps of it, Nick.
Australian Paper over the last 30 years have spent a lot of time and effort reducing that amount of water though.
That's right, even over the last 10 years they've cut it by 1/3 to the point now where every litre of water that passes through is used 6 times in the process of making paper. Once it's finished its multiple chores, the water is treated and finally released back to its source, the Latrobe River.
Probably the best way to think about it is it's probably a little bit cleaner than the river. So it's at the same temperature as the river, and it's treated so that it has no impact on the river at all.
In fact, the water comes back to the river via a system of wetlands situated on site, which have long attracted bird watchers from far and wide. The current count is 57 species of water birds living, feeding or breeding here at the Maryvale Mill wetlands.
It is a key driver. We recognise that the sustainability is a very important part of doing business. It touches on everything we do, right from sourcing our raw materials through our operations, and through what we supply to our customers. And a lot of our customers are very interested in the sustainability aspects of our operation and sustainability facts and figures. sustainability story.
So, to break it down, Australian Paper's Maryvale Mill is one of our biggest paper makers. It's the largest private employer in the Latrobe Valley, with nearly 1,000 people working on site.
It's also part of the local history, having operated in the area for more than 70 years. Maryvale is Victoria's biggest industrial producer of renewable power, and in the last few years more than $600 million has been spent on further reductions in emissions, water and energy use.
Australian Paper Maryvale is also certified under the Australian Government's National Carbon Offset Standard. Still to come, the search for the perfect power pole.
And after the break, high-tech forestry in South Australia's green